I remember exactly where I was standing when my life shattered into pieces. In my parents' pristine living room, clutching my medical reports with trembling hands. Stage 2 breast cancer. I was only 26. We need $300,000 for the complete treatment, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The insurance only covers part of it. I've saved up $100,000, but I need help with the rest. My mother sat perfectly still on our imported Italian leather sofa, her face a mask of practiced composure. My father stood by the window, his back turned to me. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. We can't help you right now, Olivia, my mother finally spoke, her voice eerily calm. Your sister Madison's wedding is in 3 months. We've already committed to paying for everything. I blinked, certain I had misheard. Mom, this is cancer treatment we're talking about. The doctors said we need to start immediately. Do you have any idea how much we've already spent on the wedding? My father turned around, his face flushed with irritation. The venue alone cost $150,000. The flowers are being flown in from Holland. Madison deserves her dream wedding. Deserves. The word hit me like a physical blow. And I don't deserve to live? My voice cracked. Don't be dramatic, my mother sighed, standing up to adjust a crystal vase of fresh orchids. There must be cheaper treatment options. Or you could get a loan. I've already looked into loans. No bank will approve that amount with my current salary. Madison chose that moment to burst through the front door, her arms laden with shopping bags. Her face glowed with the particular happiness of someone who had never faced real hardship. Mom, I found the perfect Vera Wang dress. It's only $45,000. She froze when she saw my tear-stained face. Oh, are you still talking about the cancer thing? The cancer thing. As if I had announced a minor inconvenience rather than a life-threatening illness. Madison, I turned to my sister, hoping to find a shred of empathy. Could we maybe scale back the wedding a little? Just enough to dash. Absolutely not. She cut me off, dropping her shopping bags. I've been planning this wedding my entire life. Jason's family is expecting something spectacular. I can't embarrass them with a budget ceremony. I looked between my sister and my parents, these people who shared my blood but somehow couldn't share their humanity. The reality of my situation crashed over me like a wave. How much is the total wedding budget? I asked quietly. My father shifted uncomfortably. Around $400,000. The number hung in the air between us. $400,000 for a single day of celebration. While I needed $200,000 to save my life. I see, I whispered, gathering my medical papers. I see exactly where I stand in this family. Olivia, don't be like that. My mother reached for my arm. We'll help you figure something out after the wedding. I pulled away from her touch. After the wedding might be too late. That night, I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by medical bills and wedding invitations. The cruel irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Don't you dare tell Jason's family about your situation. I don't want anything overshadowing my special day. I turned off my phone and opened my laptop. If my family wouldn't help me, I would have to save myself. I had built a small consulting business over the past few years, specializing in corporate restructuring. It wasn't huge, but I had made a name for myself among smaller companies. What my family didn't know was that I had recently been approached by a major investment firm. They wanted to acquire my business and its client list. I had been hesitant to sell, but now, with trembling fingers, I pulled up the email from Sterling Capital Partners. Their offer was still valid. $2.5 million for my company and a position as their senior consultant. I glanced at the medical reports spread across my desk, then at Madison's wedding invitation with its gold leaf embossing and hand calligraphed details. The choice was clear. The next morning, I walked into Sterling Capital's offices and signed the acquisition papers. By afternoon, the money was in my account. I scheduled my first treatment for the following week. I didn't tell my family about the sale or the money. Let them think I had taken out loans or found cheaper options. They were too busy with wedding preparations to ask anyway. The months that followed were a blur of chemotherapy sessions and business meetings. I worked remotely when I could, building my position at Sterling Capital even as the treatment ravaged my body. My hair fell out, my skin turned sallow, but my mind stayed sharp. Madison's wedding was everything she had dreamed of: orchestral music, cascading flowers, ice sculptures, and a bride who looked like she had stepped out of a fairy tale. I sat in the back, wearing a wig and makeup that couldn't quite hide what the chemotherapy had done to me. No one mentioned my cancer during the reception. It would have ruined the perfect atmosphere. After the wedding, my parents and Madison jetted off for a 2-week celebration in the Maldives. I underwent my second round of chemotherapy alone. But something interesting was happening at Sterling Capital. My expertise in corporate restructuring had caught the attention of the senior partners. While my body fought its battle, my career soared. I was given larger clients, more responsibility, more trust. Then one day, exactly 3 years after my diagnosis, I received an interesting email. It was about a company facing bankruptcy, Morrison Industries. My father's company. I leaned back in my chair, a strange smile playing on my lips as I read the detailed report. They needed a miracle, and Sterling Capital was their last hope. The irony was almost poetic. Every major decision would require my signature as the lead consultant. My phone rang. It was my father's number. I let it ring. My father's number flashed on my phone 5 more times that afternoon. Each time I let it ring. I had learned something valuable during my cancer treatment. Timing is everything. Finally, at exactly 5 p.m. I answered. Morrison Industries needs help. My father's voice was strained, missing its usual authoritative tone. Sterling Capital is our last option. I know, I replied calmly, running my fingers over the thick folder on my desk. I'm looking at the file right now. Silence. Then, you work at Sterling Capital? I'm the lead consultant for corporate restructuring. I kept my voice neutral. Actually, I'm the one who'll be handling your case. The sharp intake of breath on the other end told me he understood the implications. Olivia. He started, but I cut him off. Let's schedule a proper meeting. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Sterling Capital's main conference room. Bring Mom and Madison. She's still your CFO, right? We need all decision makers present. Before he could respond, I hung up. That night, I stood in front of my full-length mirror, carefully choosing my armor for tomorrow's battle. Gone was the sickly, desperate woman who had begged for help 3 years ago. Cancer had taken my hair, but it had grown back thicker, darker. My body, once weakened by chemotherapy, was now strong again. I chose a perfectly tailored black suit, Louboutin heels, and the diamond earrings I had bought myself after my first major deal at Sterling. The next morning, I arrived early to set up the conference room. As I placed folders at each seat, Jenny, my assistant, poked her head in. Your family's here, she said, trying to hide her curiosity. I had told her the whole story last night. Your sister's wearing what looks like a year's salary. I smiled. Send them in. They entered like actors on a stage. My father first, then my mother, and finally Madison, all dressed in their designer best. Their expressions shifted from practiced confidence to shock when they saw me. Olivia. Madison's perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. You're the consultant? Please take a seat. I gestured to the chairs, ignoring her question. We have a lot to discuss. They sat, looking uncertain for the first time in their lives. I remained standing, picking up a remote to lower the presentation screen. Morrison Industries, I began, clicking to the first slide. Founded in 1985, current market value approximately $50 million. However, you're facing debt of $75 million, 3 pending lawsuits, and your stock has dropped 60% in the last quarter. My father shifted uncomfortably. We've had some setbacks, Dash. Setbacks? I interrupted, clicking to the next slide. You've been mismanaging this company for years. Madison's department alone has lost $30 million in failed initiatives. Those designer office renovations didn't help either. Madison's face flushed red. How dare you, Dash? I dare because that's my job, I cut her off. I dare because Sterling Capital has authorized me to either save or sink your company. Every decision, every dollar of potential investment requires my signature. The room fell silent. My mother, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. Sweetheart, we're family. Surely we can, Dash. Family. I clicked to a new slide. On the screen appeared a medical bill from 3 years ago. Let's talk about family. My father's face went pale. My mother looked away. Madison suddenly became very interested in her manicure. 3 years ago, I needed $200,000 for cancer treatment. You chose to spend $400,000 on a wedding instead. Do you know how I survived? No one answered. I sold my first company. The one you all mocked as a cute little business. It sold for $2.5 million. I let that number sink in. That sale brought me to Sterling Capital. And now here we are. Olivia, my father's voice cracked. We made a mistake. We know that now. But this is our company, our legacy dash. Your legacy? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your legacy is choosing flower arrangements over your daughter's life. Your legacy is Madison's $45,000 wedding dress while I sat through chemotherapy alone. I walked around the table slowly, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Here's what's going to happen. Sterling Capital is prepared to offer you a rescue package. It would save the company, but with conditions. They leaned forward eagerly. First, both you and Madison resign from all executive positions. I held up my hand as they started to protest. You'll retain symbolic board seats, nothing more. Second, the company will be restructured under new management. My management. You want to take our company? Madison shrieked. No, I corrected her. I want to save it. Which is more than you did for me. I placed 3 contracts on the table. You have until 5 p.m. today to decide. Sign, and Morrison Industries survives under my leadership. Refuse and I'll recommend Sterling Capital let you sink. Your choice. My mother reached for my hand. Please, honey, we can work this out as a family. I pulled away from her touch just like I had 3 years ago in our living room. That's exactly what we're doing. As a family. I straightened my suit jacket. Oh, and Madison, that Hermes bag you're carrying? The real ones have different stitching. You should have consulted me. Authenticating luxury items became something of a specialty during my treatment. All those hours in the hospital gave me time to study. Her face turned scarlet as she tried to hide the counterfeit bag under her chair. I have other meetings to attend. Jenny will stay here if you have any questions about the contracts. I walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. That $400,000 wedding? Jason filed for divorce last month. I guess expensive flowers don't guarantee happiness. I closed the door behind me, letting out a long breath. Through the glass walls, I watched them stare at the contracts, their perfect world crumbling around them. By 4:30 p.m. they signed. When I got home that night, I opened my safe and pulled out a photo I'd kept hidden for 3 years. Yumi in the hospital, bald and smiling weakly after my first round of chemotherapy. No family members in sight, just my nurse who had kindly offered to take the picture. I poured myself a glass of wine, the expensive kind from my private collection, and made a toast to the scared young woman in that photo. We made it, I whispered. The next morning, Morrison Industries announced its restructuring. The stock rose 15% on the news that I would be taking over. Turns out the market had more faith in me than my family ever did. My father cleaned out his office that weekend. Madison posted a tearful Instagram story about toxic work environments and family betrayal. My mother left 3 voicemails about forgiveness and fresh starts. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I focused on rebuilding the company they had nearly destroyed. In the first month, I cut unnecessary expenses, including Madison's $15,000 monthly entertainment budget, streamlined operations, and implemented new growth strategies.